Welcome back to the Start and Scale podcast. I'm your host, Jack Brandwood, and in this series, we're diving headfirst into the world of tech with the people who are coding the future from the front lines. This is the place where we refactor the way you think about scaling tech teams, debugging their journeys, reviewing their stories, and pushing boundaries to ship better insights. Whether you're a seasoned techie who's seen your fair share of legacy code, an aspiring professional ready to deploy your skills, or just fascinated by the world of technology, this episode will give you unique insights and practical takeaways to add to your backlog.
The dopamine hit is insane.
So grab your headphones, commit to this listen, and let's sprint into another episode. I hope you enjoy the conversation.
Ian, thank you for coming in.
Jack, pleasure to be here.
How's your time in New York so far?
So far, it's been about 3 hours, I think, maybe. I've got another 10 to go until I'm flying back to Charleston.
Wow, incredible. And you seem so awake. It's so impressive.
Okay. Don't feel it, but we'll see.
Yeah, you put on a brave face. As I said before we started, I always like to ask quite a deep question to start these things off. Who is Ian Saultz?
Who is Ian Saultz? That's a tough question. I am, first and foremost, like a father, a husband, and a founder in that order, and pretty much nothing else, actually. I have maybe like an interesting path that I've taken to get here. I've done software engineering for the past 10 years, including working at AWS most recently before starting this company. Before that, I was doing sales and business development while living in Germany. I don't know. I love programming. I love spending time with my kids. I love building stuff. That's really all I am.
Love that. Awesome. Kind of pre-warned you that I was going to ask you to draw something.
Yes.
So Tac's vision is to create a world where everyone gets their dream job, and you weren't always Ian of Casco.
Yeah.
Could you draw me what you wanted to be when you grew up?
Okay. This changed, I think, quite a bit depending on what stage I was in. But I think the one thing that I remember that I really, really wanted to be, is this like, you have to guess it?
Yeah, go on. I'll try and guess it.
Okay, it's going to be really terrible. My kids are great artists, but I am most definitely not.
Always go stick person.
Yes.
It's the best way.
All right, there's the head. We've got one arm here, another one here maybe. And then let's do like that. And
I have zero idea so far. Oh, this has got... So, by the way, for anyone watching, Ian is 6'6". He's a big guy. So I'm assuming this is... You want to be a basketball player, right?
yes.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Perfect. Great drawing. Has that dream died?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I played big air quotes around it professionally in Germany. I played for the second league while I was living in Germany for a few years.
Wow.
While I still had the dream of doing it, but it was never going to happen. So went another route.
Yeah. And thank God we've got you here today, right? Could have been different.
Exactly.
It would have been a really weird podcast. Look, I need to ask about this. How you got... Obviously, you were part of YC. Casco was part of YC in 25?
In 25, we were part of the spring batch.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You were like the second most upvoted in YC history.
Yeah, in the internal kind of forum that we have there for the launch, yeah.
Why? What did you do?
Well, we worked backwards from kind of the launch post that we wanted to have. And that idea was we hacked Spring 25's YC agents, and here's what we learned. And we thought that would be like resonate with people. There's not really established security best practices around making agents, not then, still not actually really today, although it's starting to cement a bit more. And so we thought it would be educational, attention grabbing, fun, all those things. And it was actually a lot of fun to do. We went through a list of all the, at that point, the publicly available self-serve agents from our batch. And we gave ourselves a time box of like 30 minutes each and tried to hack them and see what would happen. We got, I think we got 13 out of the 16.
Wow.
And then correlated kind of all of the patterns that we saw there into a post. And I think it resonated with people because a lot of them were like, oh, okay, that's how I do that. Oh, I'm doing that. That's bad. Okay, here's why.
Whoa. Did anyone annoyed?
No, I mean,
No.
we didn't name names. A couple of people actually outed themselves in the post and said,
Did they?
You guys got us, even though they didn't name names. You gotta be a little bit kind of sensitive about revealing that information, even in an internal thing like that. But No one actually got annoyed. Yeah.
That's fair. That's fair enough. Just to put into anyone who doesn't know Casco, what does Casco do?
What does Casco do? We do agentic penetration testing, web applications, APIs, and AI systems.
So you and Renee, right?
Renee is my co-founder, yes.
You came up with the idea when you were at AWS.
That's right.
How did that come about?
Well, Renee and I, just to set a bit of context, Renee and I were product and engineering counterparts at AWS for about 4 years, worked on a number of different projects together. We both got pulled into the generative AI space at AWS fairly early on, working on a couple different projects. I think the culmination of that was the last year or so that we were there. We were both working on different projects. Renee actually was the person behind the idea of Kiro, which was AWS's or Amazon's agentic IDE that they launched a few months ago.
Wow.
He was the idea behind it, pitched it, got buy-in, was the head of product for it, and built it all. And then we actually ended up leaving about a month or so before it was launched to do this. And then I was the lead engineer on a product called AWS AI Kit, which was a collection of packages for like infrastructure as code to deploy agentic workflows into your AWS account as resources and then be able to consume those within your front-end applications.
Wow.
And so was just setting the stage a little bit there on context. And while we were both working on those projects, we would talk all the time. And we'd exchange notes on kind of the challenges that we were facing in building out like agentic processes in software. And how we were solving them. And we realized we were both solving kind of the same problems over and over and over again. And it was great to have someone to bounce ideas off and talk to me like, oh, I did that already. Oh, you did that already. Tell me how, and all of that. A little bit into that, a lot of other teams started building out agentic products as well. And we were talking with a lot of them and we realized, okay, everyone is actually solving these problems. And like there aren't frameworks or best practices for doing this. So everyone's doing it in their own way. And that generally doesn't go very well. Like it's okay in the beginning for innovative new stuff, but like you want to have established best practices fairly quickly and not be solving the same problem over and over again, 100 different ways in 100 different pieces of software. And so we realized that like agents are a thing even back then when they were still like very early on and very rough. We realized that this is a thing that was coming and that we wanted to be a part of it and see kind of what we could do as agents were proliferating. And we fell in love with the problem space of like productionizing agents. And a large part of that is security. This is an area where there weren't, I would say there still aren't really great established best practices. There are some awesome organizations like OWASP that are doing great work to try to create these best practices and guidelines for people building agents. But it's not quite common knowledge like it is with like API or web application security. There.
Wow. So what were some of the common things that you were coming up against at AWS that was like, right, this is something that we need to do?
Yeah. So from broad things like architectural patterns of what works well for agents and what doesn't, to very, very specific things like parsing tool responses from LLMs if it's a streaming response, which you have to like, there's so many weird things that you have to deal with there that you would never think. And so people end up building these really bespoke systems and like crazy parsers in order to do this. And they shouldn't be having to do that. But like everyone who encounters that problem ends up solving it in some different way. And we just realized that like this is kind of silly, that there should be an established framework for doing this, which was actually our original idea. We wanted to build like a software development kit and a hosting platform for agents where we'd have these established best practices built into it, make it easy to do the right thing, more difficult to do the wrong thing when building these agents. That was our original idea, and that's what we left Amazon with the idea of doing.
Whoa.
Yeah.
And then you pivoted to...
Pretty quickly, actually.
Wow.
Yeah. We started talking with a bunch of people who we thought would be potential customers, a lot of engineers that we knew from our network, started building out kind of a scrappy MVP to see if people would be interested in how it works and kind of what we were pitching there. And we realized that like a couple things, that Because this space of AI and agents in general is moving so quickly, people were hesitant to tie themselves down to a framework because they thought it would kind of impede their ability to progress and adopt new things as they come out, which is actually a legitimate concern. That is something that happens. And then the other piece of it was that there's only a very limited window where we can actually like sell that to somebody. That's when they're building a product from scratch, or when they get so frustrated with how they have it built that they kind of rewrite things, and then it's another opportunity. But it's like a very limited window over a full software development lifecycle to be able to sell a product to somebody. So it's difficult to get in at the right time. And so we pivoted from there into LLM guardrails, which is like a more on the defensive side of security. It is a proxy layer or a gateway that sits between a server and an inference provider like an LLM, like Anthropic or OpenAI, and also sits between the server and like calls to other systems, like for fetching data or for writing data, things like that. And the idea with there was it would shut down requests that shouldn't be being made. It would like evaluate these requests in line, very low latency to say, okay, this is a prompt injection attempt, or this is beyond the authorization scope of the user when fetching data. And so it would shut those things down. That I'm actually really proud of the MVP that we built there. It was ridiculously fast and it worked really well. We benchmarked it against all the stuff that was available on the market and felt really, really confident with it. But it was really hard to sell. It was really hard to sell because we had to convince people, one, that it was a problem, and that two, that we were the solution for it. And we tried for a little bit. We tried, I think, maybe like in startup years, a long time, right? Like 2-3 weeks of really trying to make it work. And funnily enough, it was our first customer that we got there who didn't even want guardrails. He signed the contract with us because we told he really wanted like a penetration test, a security assessment on his entire software stack, his entire application. So we said we would do that. He paid us for that if he would sign the contract for guardrail, right? We did that. He was so blown away by the results of it that he said, hey, I want to pay you guys to do this monthly. We're like, oh, okay. Maybe there's something here, right? So we, in startup fashion, right, try to prove it out real quick to see if that has legs. We talked with a bunch of other founders, reached out to a bunch of other companies, and sure enough, signed a bunch of customers. And we said, okay, this is it. Like this is now what I'm doing. Automated agentic penetration testing. Started with a focus on AI systems, and started by just doing manual penetration tests. I would just hack them and write the reports and do that, while also building up the product behind the scenes to be able to like automate myself away, essentially. And that's what we've been doing for the past almost 6 months now. I'm not quite, I guess 4 or 5 months.
And in those, that's so interesting. And thank God that customer.
Yeah. No, I'm actually really, really grateful that it worked out that way. Yeah. So many random things fell into place to make that happen. And yeah.
That's incredible. Wow. And these reports that you're doing or were doing, I don't know, they've probably changed since that first one. What are you putting in there? Like what kind of content?
Yeah, sure. So the content of the reports, the presentation of the reports has changed a lot, but the content hasn't changed all that much. Okay. The content is really like explaining the methodology and the scope of the test and what is explicitly out of scope, like certain types of attacks that could potentially cause impact to their availability. For example, most customers don't want us to do that. And then just an overview of all the like tests conducted, and then any of the findings, and going into deep detail about like, okay, we found this vulnerability that results in this, and because of this, we can do X, and explaining this. And like, you basically have two audiences in these penetration testing reports. One are like engineers, either software engineers or security engineers, the people who are consuming this and want like the really nitty-gritty technical details to understand what actually went wrong and how they can fix it. And then you have the more like executive, less technical audience that is like still technical, but I want to understand how bad this is for my business so I can prioritize it. And so it's important that you have both of those kind of aspects within there. Our first report was literally a Word document. Like that's how it started. Now it's a whole console, web application, very much more consumable, much more fun to interact with. But our first was really just a Word document.
Wow. Well, they always say if you're not embarrassed with the first,
yes,
I think iteration of your product, then you release too late or something like that, right?
Absolutely. I very strongly believe that. Yes.
Brilliant. Love that. Cybersecurity teams, the big conversation in cybersecurity at the minute is, well, in the world's AI agents, obviously, and everyone's trying to figure out their application to their industry. Within cybersecurity teams, will I be able to replace cybersecurity teams with these AI agents? Mm-hmm. Do you think that's possible, or is that potentially very dangerous?
I think it's a bit, I gotta be careful with my words here, a bit naive to assume that in the near-term future, a business that has a security team will be able to replace it with AI. I feel the same way about software developers, although I'm a bit biased there, admittedly, as an engineer myself. I don't think that's going to happen. What I do think is not just going to happen, is happening already, is that a specific like cross-section of security, namely offensive security, is going through a very interesting path right now in that it has historically never been automated. There have been a lot of attempts to automate it because it is, for the past decades, it's been done by expert human penetration testers, of which there is much more demand than supply. And so it is a very expensive process in order to get penetration testing done. And so a lot of people have tried to disrupt that market through automation, right? And said, okay, well, if it costs 20 grand to do a pen test, I can just write some software and automate it and it will be significantly cheaper. The problem is all of those attempts have failed in the past because you can't define what a penetration tester needs to do like statically, procedurally in code. It's not possible. There's reasoning required there. There's like a intuition and deep knowledge and understanding of connections that like humans are actually really, really good at. That is essential there. And I say could not have been automated, but with especially more recent over the last couple of years, innovations in large language models, it is now. It's possible to kind of add that reasoning into an agentic system in order to replace a lot of what a penetration tester does today. In fact, even with like significantly better results, because you can go a lot deeper and a lot wider in what you're examining. And you don't have like these inherent skill gaps or inherent like human biases that a penetration tester might bring with them. Like an example there's a specific type of vulnerability that I love. I don't know why. I actually can't explain it why, but it just like, I just really, really enjoy it. Conceptually, it's like, I think it's really, really interesting. And because of that, if I'm doing something like a manual penetration test, I catch myself all the time like gravitating towards that, even though it's like maybe pulling me away from other things that are important. And I recognize that and do things to combat it, but like that everyone has those kind of biases or things that excite them or things that don't excite them more, that influences the quality of penetration testing as it is today.
I imagine it quite addictive.
Yes.
Doing it. Yeah.
The dopamine hit is insane.
It's like, I found it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially because you go through sometimes a lot of pain to get to that point where it's like you're constantly going further and further and further and further. And it's like, am I going to get there? You feel like something is just within reach. It's definitely addictive.
Would you say that you're an AI optimist?
Yeah.
You are?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, definitely.
Why do you think there's so much pessimism? Is it because people are a little bit scared of what danger of jobs going or?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and I think that's actually a very legitimate concern. Like I am optimistic about how AI will improve society on a whole, but I actually truly understand the like concerns of pessimism there. I think one very legitimate concern is that will end up being a tool for the rich to get richer, more powerful to be more powerful. I actually think it's a very legitimate concern. But I also think that Pandora's box is open, and it's on us as society, but also us as individuals to try to shape what we think the world should be, and try to force like good on the world in a way. So I'm optimistic that we as a species will do good from this.
Awesome. Obviously, cybersecurity is changing so much, and things like passwords and firewalls were kind of failing, and they're moving into like passkeys and other stuff. Have you theorized, you and Renee, about what the future of cybersecurity hacks and threats look like, and what we may be expecting?
Yeah, theorized, yeah, for sure. It's very hard. The only thing that, like, whenever I think about how LLMs and AI is going to evolve over the next 6 months, year, especially beyond that, like 3, 4, 5, 10 years, I think the only thing that I know for sure is that whatever I'm imagining is wrong, right? I think it's like, it might go in a general direction of what I'm thinking, but there's always new things, new use cases that come up from with models that as they improve just the slightest amount on something, and then like a whole new use case arises out of it, which is really fascinating. We saw that with Nano Banana, with the Google image model that was released like a month or so ago, maybe 2 months ago by now at this point. But that was a really interesting one, not cybersecurity related at all. So sorry, I'm not answering your question.
That's
but it was just really interesting how like a minor step up in image models made it so that there is like a whole new use case enabled there of like editing photos while still keeping the like context correct within the background of a photo. So that enables a lot of things that are like typically done through Photoshop or Illustrator that were not possible previously. So I guess bringing this back to cybersecurity, I have theories, but I don't even know if I want to like admit them to myself, much less publicly.
Yeah, good point. It's tough, isn't it? Because cybersecurity is such an adversarial cat and mouse thing. It's almost impossible to be proactive with these things. You just have to wait until there's always a patient zero, right? And then from there, you have to just a case of acting as quick as possible to then rectify it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So you always got to have your finger on the pulse, and but yeah, it's so surprising because obviously, like what you guys are doing now, it's like the AI agents are being taken up and adopted so quickly. There's of course going to be so many gaps that need to be looked after, and yeah, it's just crazy that I mean, the best ideas are usually the most obvious ones, and you go, oh yeah, obviously,
Yeah, it took us a while to get here, though. Actually, believe it or not, like in hindsight, it's obvious, but like when you're going through it and trying to figure things out, it's I guess it takes some time to get to that moment of clarity.
Of course, yeah, of course, and to all the developers that are listening now, any actionable steps they can take to harden agents?
Yeah, absolutely. So like the best resource for this is OWASP, OWASP. It's a not-for-profit organization that releases a bunch of information around best practices for security and also for security testing. They have a top 10 vulnerability list for LLMs, for agents. They either have already released or are soon releasing one for MCP security as well. It's just an awesome all-around resource for people who are interested in this and learning more. I will say we see a lot of issues in the wild. The one that we see the most that has the most like critical impact is when agents are over permissioned, when they're giving too much permission, when they're treated, I guess as developers, we are trained to think of this pattern as there's a client, a web app, a mobile app, something, and then there's a server, and that server is a secure environment, and then it reads from a database, and this server has permissions to read everything from the database, and then you handle this logic in the server to say, this user can only read this user's records from the database and not other users, right? If you take that model and just retrofit agents on top of it, bad things happen because you think of an agent as, oh, it's my server, it's fine, right? It can have like read-only access to everything in the database, not just for the specific user. Bad things happen because if you have an agent there, you have an LLM that's deciding what to call from the database, and it is trivial. And I don't just mean like possible, I mean actually trivial to prompt inject an LLM to basically do something similar to what we would call like an insecure direct object reference in the security space, where we're both users of this agent, and somehow I get your user ID, be it in like the URL bar, sometimes it's in there, or a screenshot or a demo that's online or something. And I just tell the LLM that this is my user ID and give me the data back, and I get your data back. It's possible and actually not difficult to do that securely, but a lot of people don't. And that's the one thing I would want people to take more seriously, is to like, don't over permission your agents. Give them only what they need access to and nothing more, because when you do, bad things happen.
Wow. Yeah. And if you want to know more, get through Casco, and they'll do some testing for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Always happy to.
Yeah. And I just go again to the journey of Casco, because when we first spoke, we spoke over a Zoom, and you were talking about the sacrifices you kind of made, really, getting Casco off the ground. Could you just walk us through in a bit more detail about the journey of leaving AWS, joining YC, and all that sort of stuff? Yeah,
for sure. I actually loved working at AWS. I really, really enjoyed it. I think I got lucky. I got placed into an org. It's a great director, great managers within there, where it felt, this is going to sound very weird to say, but it felt like a startup. We were like a new organization working on a new product with a lot of autonomy, and it was just like, let's just get stuff done, right? Like process light, just make the right decisions, move fast. And it was a lot of fun and exciting. And it was also an environment where I thrived in, where it's like, it's not just like, this is your responsibility, this is what you do. It's like, we're all trying to go in this direction. And if you have, I don't care if you're an engineer, if you have a product idea or you have a marketing idea or whatever, like push on that, make it happen, right? Talk to the right people, convince the right people, and just do it. And so I really enjoyed it. But also I've always had a very entrepreneurial spirit. And I knew it wasn't somewhere where I wanted to be forever. And Renee, would say the same thing. In fact, he has. He said if he stayed there another year, he would have spent his entire career there. And so we've been always floating around the idea of going off and doing something on our own. This is not the first business I've started. My wife and I started a business, I think 6 years ago now, a completely different space, food production. She runs it now. She's awesome. And but I've always had a very entrepreneurial spirit. Going from, senior engineer at big tech compensation to founder salary is quite a big difference. And also the risk involved and all of that. One interesting tidbit was when we left, we were talking to some investors and trying to generate some interest and get some funding. We applied to YC. When we applied, I actually wasn't sure I wanted to do it, even if we got it. I didn't think we were going to, but I also wasn't sure that I wanted to. And then we interviewed, and it went really well, and we got accepted. And I was like, okay, maybe I really should do this. It was a huge sacrifice. I live in Charleston, South Carolina with my family. I have 3 kids. My wife runs the business that we have. It's for her to solo parent our 3 kids for 2.5 months. I don't deserve her, the fact that she did that. But also YC was the single most transformative experience I've had in my life. It was insane. I cannot recommend it enough.
In what way?
They force you to focus on the right things at the right time. Very much just cut all of that out, cut out all of the noise, and just focus on this thing that matters right now in the stage of the company that you're at, and nothing else. And that is awesome. That is great. I think Renee and I both have a lot of that we brought already, but they still brought it to a whole nother level for us. What, bar none, the best part about it though is the community. We were in our batch had, I believe, about 150 companies in total. We got to know and become very good friends with a lot of founders there. It's really, you bond when you're going through this like extreme emotional highs and lows of starting a company and building a company. When a founder is going through a situation where they're like, this is like a make or break time for my company. Usually it's not, but like they think it is in the moment. And then they're talking through it with someone else at YC, another founder, and they're like, oh, actually, like I know somebody who can help you here. Let me connect you. He's a good friend of mine, right? And then it's just amazing, helpful community that is just like very much I actually don't even know the phrasing where rising tides lift together or something like
sure.
that. Right?
Rising tides raise all ships.
Yes,
Yeah.
That's what I was looking for. It was just really special. I have friends that I made there that I know will be friends for life.
Oh, wow. That's incredible. And that's interesting what you say there, like, because a lot of businesses, I think, from what I speak to, after I speak to them, they say they get bogged down with stuff that just does not matter, like right now. Like, God, that is so far ahead. And the fact that they gave you that element of essentialism, really, to focus on the here and now, is awesome. What kind of skills did they help you develop whilst you were at NYC? Were there any?
They create a community and culture that like forces you to develop skills indirectly rather than like teaching you skills, if that makes sense. Like what they created indirectly makes you focus on the right things, makes you like transfer skills among founders and help each other out. Some of the really like interesting experiences there was early on. Brian Chesky, who's the founder and CEO of Airbnb,
Sure,
which is a YC company. Very early on, he came and gave a talk, and it was this guy just has so much energy. It was like, it went from, I think it was supposed to be like an hour or an hour and a half. I think he talked for 2.5 hours, and we all walked out of there at 9:30. The entire batch was there. I don't think anyone slept that night. I think everyone walked home and was like, how am I supposed to sleep after that? I need to just go and just build my company like until I fall down, because that is the only thing that matters. And it was really cool and very motivational.
What do you say to people? Because obviously the whole work-life balance debate is a really tough one. And I know that Brian Chesky talks about that quite a lot in his talks. I'm sure he did that day, hence why no one slept. Yeah. What do you think about whole work-life balance?
I think I have a very contradictory opinion to myself on it. I think that you need to invest a lot of time and like all or almost all of your mental energy into something if you want to succeed. I truly believe that. But I also truly believe that there are other things in life that are also very, very important. I am ambitious. I want to build this into like a very large, very successful company. And I believe that I will, but I won't neglect being like a father or a husband as part of it. Like I work a lot. I'm very dedicated to this, but I still drive my son to soccer practice 4 times a week. And pick my daughter up from gymnastics. And son who does soccer 4 times a week practice plays this weekend. Is playing 3 games.
Wow.
Daughter who's doing 3 nights a week gymnastics, also like competitive now. And so like we have very crazy lives. My wife runs our business that we have with about 10, 12 employees at this point as well. We have a very crazy life, but we'll make it work. I think for me, it's like, I care about being a dad, a good partner to my wife, and a founder, and honestly, not much else. And for some people that might seem sad, but I actually really enjoy it. Like I sneak a workout in a couple times a week when I can. And that's basically it.
Yeah.
It's my life and I'm happy with it.
Prioritization. And also, I'm sure there's a lot of people that probably look at you and your time schedule and they go, great, like why would you put yourself through that? Just chill out, man. Like you don't need to do all this. But and the whole thing about being exceptional is you have to be the exception. You can't really do what everyone else is doing and expect to get completely different results. Yep. But then, like you said, it kind of contradictory. You don't need to like suffer. You can still drive your kids to soccer practice and do all these things. It's just there's other things that you have to get rid of, perhaps.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I do think that there are times where you have to suffer.
Yeah,
you just don't have to
sprints.
always suffer.
Sure, like 2.5 months at YC, right, where you like full on. Yeah.
Or when things are burning and it's like, okay, I need to, I'm too old to really pull all nighters anymore because like I could still do it, but then I would just be a mess for the next week.
Yeah.
But there are times where like, if needed, it's an 18-hour workday. But that's rare. It's few and far between. My personal take, maybe that works for some people, but for me, that would not work. There are just other things in life that are also very, very important.
Yeah, and your brain is like your IP, right? That's like the most. If you're making, you right now have to make so many big. I mean, Jeff Bezos talks about this. Like, decision making is so important, especially when you're like an exec. You have to protect your sleep and your brain and your decision making capabilities with everything you have.
Yes.
Because as soon as you start making really poor decisions, then that's when everything screws up.
Yep.
That's interesting. Right. Okay. And during your YC batch, was there a theme of people coming through, like types of businesses that you saw?
There were a lot of AI, agentic businesses
Sure.
at the time. Quite a lot. I would say I was an atypical YC founder, just based on age and stage in life.
Right.
I don't know the actual statistics, but my gut would be that it's like mostly average is probably like 25, a year or two out of college with professional experience. But there's a whole range. There were a couple kids that they left their senior year of high school early to go to YC. I think they actually finished it some way, but like they left early to go do YC, which is just mind blowing to me. But there were people who had gone through YC before, like 10 years prior, and built up a company and successfully exited and are now doing it again. And they're like, they don't need to do it for like the funding or for anything like that. I talked with one of those founders. He went through YC, built up a company. It's publicly traded. Wow. And he went through YC again with a new company during this batch. I was like, why are you doing this? Like, I really want to understand this. This is really cool. I love it here, but like, why? It's like, I needed to be around the energy. I could feel that without it, I didn't think I was going to succeed. And I just needed to be around that energy to get things going again.
Yeah, ambition and that like, oh yeah, I can imagine it's addictive.
I mean, you become the average of the people you surround yourselves with.
Sure.
Right? Being around people who are exceptional at what they do, who work very hard, who are extremely ambitious. I don't know that there's another place that like has that concentration of that in the world besides YC.
God, I'm pumped. This is like this is my Brian Chesky conversation. I'm going to leave here. I'm just going to work all night. Final question, we'll get you out of here, I promise. Plans for Casco? Like, what can we expect to see?
We are singularly focused on fixing offensive security right now, just because we think it's broken and we think we can fix it, and that it needs to be fixed. So that is our singular focus, and that's what we're going to be doing.
Awesome, man. Well, look, thank you so much for coming in, and it's been great speaking to you. I can't wait to see Casco in the next 12 months.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you, Jack. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
And that's it for this week's episode. Thanks so much for listening, and I really hope you enjoyed it. Anything we talked about will be linked in the show notes, and if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts. And we'll catch you on the next one.